late than never. This is Live Free with Rebecca Bush, episode 24. Things ran a little over when we said the podcast would be scheduled today. Just having some tech glitches. And as you can see, I'm not in the studio. I'm at our 10-acre homestead here at Radical Roots Ranch. I was out there corralling our little dogs, and then also we have our ducklings that just hatched and things, so lots of movement here on the farm, new community members moving in this week, so very exciting times. But I'm also 4 weeks post-op. I just explanted, which is when you have your breast implants removed, 4 weeks ago, and I really wouldn't have been able to do it without the amazing woman who helped guide me through this process. Her name is Laura, and she is here with us today. Hold on a second. So I will bring her on now. Laura, hello. Thank you for being with us. If you'd like to introduce yourself and your journey and kind of how you got into all of this work.
Hey, Rebecca. Thank you so much first for having me on. My name is Laura Bowden. I have been a breast implant patient advocate for many years. I should actually say decades. I'm actually a survivor myself. I was sick from my implants back in 1990. I had them put in 1990, had them taken out in 1992. To make this as short of a story as I possibly can, because I know we're limited on time. I had my implants for 2 years. I was taken to my knees within that 2 years. I had, it was before social media. What told me that I was sick from my breast implants after going to doctor at 26 years old. I was taken down within 4 months of having my implants. After 2 years of not getting any answers from numerous doctors, it was literally my gut, my God-given gut. The only difference in my life was I got breast implants. So I went back to my plastic surgeon. I said, I'm very sick. If it's my implants, please tell me. He tapped me on the knee. Now, there's no scientific data to show that's why you're sick, but I will take your implants out under a local if that makes you feel better. Meaning condescending, if that's what you want me to do. I said, take them out. I was a week away from him taking my implants out. I was sitting at my grandma's, and there Jenny Jones was talking about being sick from her breast implants. And that was it for me. That started my journey as finding a doctor that believed in silicone adjuvant breast disease, is what it was called back in the 90s. And went to Texas, got my implants out with a total end block, which was basically kind of unheard of back then. So I'm absolutely convinced that I was spared decades ago to be a vessel. So I got better, and then I became loud, and anybody that would listen, social media, talk shows, the news, picketed in Chicago, formed a support group. Women came from underground. We put a newspaper ad in about being sick from your implants. So that became my journey. And here we are today. I am an advocate for Pryor Health. I am here with Dr. Pryor is our fearless leader. He was the first surgeon that I met that believed us. I met him at a documentary, and he believed a room full of women. And that was huge. We asked every single plastic surgeon in Illinois to come to this documentary, and not one showed up but Dr. Pryor. And he has since then brought on a fabulous surgeon, Dr. Sood, as Dr. Pryor is taking more of an administrative lead with the practices, many practices he has. Dr. Sood is doing the majority of our explants in our community. And he actually did explant Rebecca literally 4 weeks ago. So the voice that you're being right now after only 4 weeks is, this is definitely going to be your journey, and it's your calling. And I met you. I was at a conference, and it was a First Steps conference. And I had joined a panel of women, breast implant illness survivors. And you, I believe, had just kind of walked past the conference room and heard us speaking, correct?
Yeah, I was in the room, and I think there were 5 women total sharing their stories. And actually, the panel I had just been on food forestry with Jim Gale, he kind of tapped my shoulder, was like, "Oh yeah, my wife dealt with this too." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, is this common?" Like, and I'm listening to the women sharing, and you had provided some research to kind of even explain what breast implant illness was, because despite the fact that I had breast implants put in 2011. I was told that they were safe, that saline was healthy and the more natural route, and that under the muscle was the way to go. So I think in my own brain, hearing these women's stories versus the narrative I had been told about them being safe and, that I could have them in for years and years and there's no reason to replace them or no, negative issues that can come from them. And when I was hearing the women's stories, what really stuck with me was the joint pain and how the very next day they would have, like, literally their symptoms would start to disappear. And I'm like, this couldn't be a coincidence that so many women are all saying the same thing. And yeah, then when I approached you afterward, that was like really a wake up moment for me. You kind of shook me and you were like, no, like, you need to go get these out immediately. But I'm really glad that you did, because had I not been in the room that day, I don't know that I would be feeling the way I feel right now. And so I want to thank you for your work. And I definitely agree that you're a vessel and that your ability to communicate not only how to approach the solution, but also the process of walking through it and hand holding and making sure that patients feel safe and heard. Like, you're just amazing at what you do. And I really appreciate you, Laura.
I appreciate that, those humble, kind words. It's a journey. By the time you beautiful souls have gotten to me, you've already been gaslit. You've already been to so many doctors. It's not like you decide one morning to wake up and decide to get your breast implants taken out. You've already done the work with the medical community, where you've had blood work done and it's a little off. Well, here's some medication. Anxiety, it's stress. You need to eat better. You need to start working out. And the thing is, this is the type of illness that you can't see. We can feel it from the inside out. So me personally going through it myself, I can feel it to my core. It doesn't matter that was 30 some years ago. So you women have already gotten to the point where you've done everything. You've done everything. And at that point, you've usually have went more the holistic route. Okay, I'm going to change it holistically. I'm going to clean up my diet. I'm going to take out gluten. So you've been basically keeping your head above water. If everything else is ruled out, which is pretty much where you're at by the time you get to us, and then something you hear about breast implant illness. It could be a neighbor, it could be a friend, it could be all of a sudden pops up on Instagram. And the symptoms that you've been experiencing, all of a sudden you start hearing these stories of other women experiencing the exact same thing. This illness is diagnosis of exclusion. We cannot tell you 150% that you are sick from your breast implants. So by the time you women have gotten to me and on this phone call, you have done better research than the FBI. So right?
Yeah.
It's like, I have done everything. There is nothing else that is left except hearing these women's experience. You've already educated yourself. You've already been gaslit, probably many, many surgeons that say that's not a thing. There's no science behind it. Now, let's talk about the science behind it. There is science behind it. It's been there for decades. It has been hidden very, very well. So my biggest take on that is, not only are you women doing your research once you find out that there's a good possibility you're sick from these implants, my thing is there is hundreds and hundreds of studies, solid studies, PubMed studies that are saying that these implants are dangerous. There's not one study that's showing these implants are safe. So as we're all scrambling to prove that these implants are not safe, there's not one that's saying there is. And we are the science. Rebecca, you're the science. There is hundreds and thousands of women that have fallen ill from their told to be safe breast implants. So diagnosis of exclusion, we see more often than not, when these implants are taken out, the women get better. Now, with that being said, there's still work for patients to do. Their system have been compromised. They've been in fight or flight. Their nervous system is compromised. We have a lot of resource and a lot of connections of people that are helping women get over the hurdles and the damage that's been done from their breast implants. We're seeing a lot of thyroid. I
Yeah.
mean, if anything, if anybody said to me, I would probably say their thyroid is probably like one of the top affected um, from these implants. So, even though we're seeing patients get better, never giving any false expectations, there's still work that the patients have to do. Even more so with our saline patients. It seems for some reason, their process of cleaning up their diet, their gut brain, they have a lot of gut issues. Um, the fatigue, but gut issues, neuropathy, inflammation. It really truly seems that this illness is based on inflammation. So the resources that we give is basically gives women other lifelines to see if they can get over those hurdles of things that don't get better. But what they've have done is eliminated one of the possibly could be main components. There's over 50 chemicals in these implants. The saline implants still have a silicone shell, okay, which is obviously an irritant. So the issue is, it doesn't mean some of our sickest patients are saline implants. And that was just like you said, Rebecca, oh, they're safe. There's just saline. Well, they have a faulty valve. It's been known for decades that the valve is faulty. So we have saline and we have a silicone shell. What happens when we take saline solution and we put it in body temperature for years? It is a petri dish. So it definitely seems the saline patients have a double whammy. But the women can heal. It is possible. I mean, what possibly can go wrong when we take these chemicals and we put them at the most vital organs, our lung and our heart, right? So really, it is really a last resort by the time you girls get to us. And let's talk about capsules. I know, Rebecca, you wanted me to touch on that. There's a lot of controversy. Capsules in, capsules not. A lot of doctors say those capsules don't need to be removed.
Because some surgeons don't, just so everyone understands, because I didn't even know this, and these were inside of my body for 11 years. So you have the implant, and then your body, right, starts to attack it, and it almost looks, if you look at a picture of it, it looks like a scab. Like your implants are covered in a scar capsule that's like red. It looks like a bunch of blood scab, right? So some surgeons just leave that in, and then what happens when that, if that's
Exactly. So that's a great
right?
question. So what happens anytime there's a foreign invader, the body looks and says, oh, wait a minute. And it needs to build a protective barrier. So that protective barrier is actually the women's best friend. So it encapsulates this implant. And what happens a lot of time, a lot of the women experience something called a capsule contracture. That's where it actually gets tight. So when women say, oh, my breast is moved up a little bit and it's hard, it's actually not the breast per se. It's the capsule that is actually, because of the contracture, has lifted the implant higher up into the clavicle. And that's when the breast is really angry. Now, it doesn't mean you have to have a capsule contracture to get sick. It doesn't mean you have to have a rupture to get sick. Silicone implants gel bleed 24 hours after they're put in our body. It has been known for decades. So that silicone leaches into the scar capsule. So when we talk about should the scar capsule be removed, why would we leave a capsule that now has toxins? We are having many patients come to us to get the capsules removed that have not been removed. More importantly than that, there is now a study that the FDA put out that there is a potential cancer that is leaked to the scar capsules. Just knowing that itself, long-term peace of mind, making sure there's no long-term complications, it's incredibly important. Oh, thank you, girl. There we go. So
I don't know what you can see.
I love this. Thank you.
Like,
we are so visual. So what you're seeing right here, that is beautiful. So what we're seeing is that capsule. So let's say somebody has an implant and it's ruptured. And we call this a silent rupture. Unless you have an MRI done, we don't know if you have a rupture. So picture that scar capsule, right? So if a surgeon doesn't know if there's a rupture and decides to leave that scar capsule in, you are taking the chance of spilling that silicone into the chest cavity. Well, we know how that's going to turn out. So the importance of that, beautiful job. Thank you, Rebecca. The importance of that scar capsule is keeping that silicone contained. And the surgeon goes around that scar capsule, removes the capsule, and then opens up the scar capsule to see the integrity of the implant. It should never be opened up into the chest cavity. So that scar capsule, when I say it's your best friend until it's not, it's doing its job to protect the rest of your body from any loose silicone. So why is it some surgeons believe and some surgeons don't? It's a very meticulous surgery. There are risks. And that's a lot of chatter out there too. It's too risky. There's a chance you can cause a pneumothorax. And this is why you need to go to a surgeon that believes in BII, has a meticulous hand, is skilled, has done many of these. That's the importance of that. So there's a scare tactic out there saying, you know what, the risk is too great, or I'm not sure if I can remove it all. Now, 100%, unless it's over the muscle, that capsule is attached to the rib cage. So that's where the risks come in. And that's why patients travel all over the state, for one, to come here and see Dr. Sood, and number two, to make sure that this is done properly. So when I say you women have done better research than the FBI, you know when you come here and you come to Prior Health that those capsules are going to be removed properly. And I also take a picture of the inside chest cavity for the women just for peace of mind. I'll take a photo of the capsule around and you can see the integrity of the implant. So that's the importance of these scar capsules. Personally, me and everything that I know, it is a no-brainer. The capsules need to come out. The fact that we now have a study showing that they have the potential of causing cancer, why would we want to leave that in their body?
Yeah, because there's some women who want to get their breast implants out because they are feeling sick and they want the symptoms to improve. But if they don't do that research, or if they find the first surgeon or the surgeon who put them in, but they don't even know or even acknowledge that breast implant illness is a thing because it's not diagnosed as a medical, right? It's not actually considered a medical diagnosis. So if you just go find any surgeon, who doesn't understand the importance of taking that out, then your symptoms won't improve most likely, right? Even if you get the implants taken out, but the capsule remains in there. One, that's kind of gross to think about because it's just holding all those toxins and bad things. But it's likely that you actually won't feel better.
Yeah, there are, just to backtrack on that, that's a great question. There are women that just get their implants out that get relief from their symptoms. Long term, what is that going to look like? We really have no studies to show. Long term, as far as leaving those capsules in, there is also a lot of chatter that the capsules, the body will dissolve the capsules. 100% not true. Your body will not absorb these scar capsules. That is not correct. I will stand by that to my last breath. Dr. Sood has taken out breast implants with capsules left in, and I have videos of this, a 40-year-old capsule attached to the new capsule the body has formed. The woman had a silicone rupture. The capsule was left in the body. Another implant put in. Now, when that happens, the body sees it and says, oh, darn, there's another foreign invader. I need to make that capsule again, right? That piece of capsule that was left in, the whole entire capsule, which now has shrunken up, when Dr. Sood opened up that capsule that was left in 40 years ago, there were traces of silicone in there. So we have many videos that have shown that the capsules, the body does not absorb the capsule. That is not the correct information. That is misinformation. We have the proof of that. So I know that's being talked about a lot too, that no, or if it's thin, just leave it. Not true. A lot of times the thin capsules are very difficult to remove because they're like a cellophane. So a lot of surgeons don't feel the need. The toxins still leach within that capsule. There's no dose. So this needs to be done right the first time.
So let's talk about how Dr. Sood and Dr. Pryor do that. So I have the website pulled up. Let me see. I have this 3-screen thing. Let me see if I can pull up the website here. So is that showing? This is the Prior Health website. I hope you're seeing that. Dun, dun, dun. No, it's not working.
That's okay. You know what? I think that's absolutely wonderful. I think what's really important too is talk about the symptoms. Okay. You personally, tell us, what was it, looking back, what was the first things that you started feeling was just off?
Well, for me personally, I would say that the joint pain was just unbelievable. Like, I thought in my mind, oh, I'm having this joint pain because I was a cheerleader, I was a tumbler, I was a diver, and that's how I rationalized it. But it got to a point a few years ago where, I mean, my bones started to feel literally like glass. And so I knew that that was unusual, but I just didn't quite understand why. So that was the first symptom that I experienced, and that's the inflammation, right? Which, by the way, the day after surgery, that sensation is gone, and I've now been 1 month without it, and I can't even tell you how trippy it is now to walk through life and not have my bones feel like glass. Like, it's just, first of all, that was amazing that I felt that relief the very next day. But also, I used to take Adderall for ADHD. Oh, wow, the timing coincided perfectly with my brain fog, fatigue, and so here I am taking something, a molecule away from meth, so that I could focus. And it's like the veil is lifted, once the implants were removed. Even though I have physically been in pain, my chest area still healing. I'm only 4 weeks out. I have 6 weeks of like, don't, lift more than 10 pounds and all this. But so that still hurts and stuff. But in terms of my mental ability to like, okay, I have my planner and I'm writing things down and I'm being, more organized and stuff. Like, I have, one of the first things I would say was definitely the joint pain, definitely the brain fog. And then I started to have really bad digestion issues, which happened in 2020. So this would have been right around the 10-year mark of having the implants in. And when I say digestion issues, I mean, it spread to full-blown neurological issues. And I actually ended up in the ER last year. I had heart palpitations, numbness in my limbs, and I went to the ER because we thought I was having a stroke. Now, they ran all these tests, and thank goodness my health share covered a lot of the expenses. But I mean, we're talking $12,000 ER bill with all these different tests done. They couldn't find anything wrong with me, which I was like, good, I didn't have a stroke. I'm glad I didn't have a stroke. But nothing could explain these neurological issues that I was experiencing. And it was like, what the heck's wrong with me? And so that's something else that, the symptoms got to a point where on their symptom sheet for prior health, it's like, feels like dying. I'm like, check. I mean, it's crazy. Like how after, over 10 years, the symptoms really started to express themselves really strongly. Hair loss, my hair was falling out in clumps. That started in 2020.
You get to a point, you hit on something. You were saying, you went to the ER and you didn't have a stroke. Well, thank goodness you didn't have a stroke. But me personally, taking my advocate hat off, I personally remember going and having all the blood work. And when they would tell me everything was fine, I would cry. And it wasn't because it was that I was relieved. It was because, tell me I have something. If you need to tell me I have cancer, I can handle it. But at least tell me something, because then you just start to think you're crazy. And the most important thing is the message to get out is, if you are having these symptoms, brain fog, it is like you just can't focus. A word retrieval. Me, I was 26 years old and I couldn't finish my sentences. My husband would have to finish my sentences. If you have exhausted everything and it's brain fog and it's fatigue, like you can't explain it to anybody unless you've been through it. It's like feeling like you're hungover, have the flu every single day. It is like when you feel like you've never rested. The inflammation, the weight gain, the shortness of breath, the heart palpitations, the dry eyes. For me personally, the dry eyes, I think, are more typical with silicone implants than saline implants. Saline implants seem to have a lot of mental, and I don't mean this in a bad way, depression, anxiety, thoughts that just are not normal, ringing in the ears, the bottom of their feet hurt, digestion issues. Silicone seems to be the fatigue, the dry eyes, the weight gain. Some digestion, more with saline, if I had to kind of give an estimation. However, and I keep going back to, hair loss, like you said, saline, we see probably more rashes with saline. I believe that has something to do with, my personal opinion is more the fungus, bacteria, and mold. There's 55 different symptoms. So if there is any woman on here listening to this and going, I always encourage to go to your primary, have blood work done. Things will be a little bit off, possibly, but nothing enough to say, hey, this is why you're feeling like, I feel like I'm going to die. And I think this is a really tough illness, because to look at us, even when Rebecca was sick and the day I met her, I always say, and I know this is going to sound crazy, but we can always see BII in the eyes. And the eyes are the windows of the soul. So when we see our patients and they come in, there's like this hollow look that they have, like they've lost their light. And they've lost their joy. And women are really resilient, and they're strong, and they're brave, and they're caretakers, and they're moms, and they're sisters. And so they put themselves on the back burner, and they fake their way through this illness because nobody's finding anything wrong with them. So our hopes, and I know Rebecca's hope, is that we are able to help educate, not fear. This is not about causing fear. The hope is to educate the public that they can do their own research and they can get educated on what breast implant illness is. And it's planting seeds and throwing lifelines. Now people say, well, does everybody get sick? So-and-so has had them. You know what? The answer to that, I'm going to say I don't know. I do believe all breast implants are going to fail at some point in our lives. Genetic plays a huge part in this, huge part of it. For me, I have double MTHFR. So that's both snippets of the MTHFR gene. Sounds like a bad word. My body cannot rid toxins. So for me, getting those toxins, those implants in, within 4 months, I was taken down. Now, why is there a woman that can be fine for 8 years and doesn't get sick? It finally gets to the point that your toxic overload is just too much. So personally, when my implants were removed with the scar capsules, it was like somebody took the logs off the fire. It was like somebody took the cloud out of my brain. For me, it happened immediately. Immediately, somebody flipped a switch. And that's when I became a voice, because I thought, are you kidding me? I'm 28 years old at this point, and this happened to me. So I think it's really difficult for our older patients that are going through menopause, because, hey, it's got to be menopause. So I think they suffer much longer because it can be blamed on so much more. Like, Rebecca, you're young, right? Like, I was 26. It can't be blamed on menopause. It can't be blamed on, there was nothing else that it could have been blamed on. So what I ask is dig deep. Do your research. Listen to your God-given gut. Your God-given gut. That is going to guide you. It's never wrong. You're going to be in denial, because the last thing, like, even when you think about getting your implants removed, the last thing we want to do is get our implants removed. We got them for a reason. It is the last thing. So it is the last ditch effort to at least eliminate that and to see what else may be going on. Could be genetic, past disposition that you didn't know about, that was triggered by the implants, that now it's something you have to work through. Or it could be for the fact that, in my case, I got them out and I never looked back. It's been 32 years and I have been literally like blessed to be the vessel to be here and to be talking about it. And I will never stop talking about this. And we have all these beautiful souls like you, Rebecca, joining the front line. Right? This is basically women saving women. And my hope is that you go back to your medical doctors that you've seen and you educate them, because they're going to see other Rebeccas, right? They're going to see that's what we asked of our patients that have been so very sick. And the doctors are just like either pure ignorance or just don't know, or they need to stay in their lane, right? Because once you know, how do you ever unknow, right? So there needs to be a talking track when you women go to the doctor. It needs to be asked, do you have breast implants? This has to be part of the documentation, the questions that are asked, because then it'll be like, let me think about this, right? So many doctors know these women have breast implants and aren't putting any kind of correlation. So us as patients, as women, as survivors, need to go back to our medical community of where we've been and not shame them, not make them say, you should have known. It's about educating them. And you hope and pray they took an oath, first do no harm, that they're going to listen and they're going to remember the next Rebecca that walks through the door, because they're going to be more.
Yeah, I remember I went to my gynecologist and he was like, "Oh, you have breast implants. Have you had any issues with them?" Because some women have health issues with them. And I should have in that moment been like, "Oh, what are the health issues?" Because immediately my response was, "Well, sometimes they're uncomfortable and I'll kind of have to like move my muscles around and stuff." But I never even thought in my head when he asked that question that that could have been why I was having joint pain, or that's why I was tired all the time, or that's why I was having IBS symptoms that were like, popped out of nowhere. So even him being aware of it, but me not knowing that it could be causing some of the issues, there was, I answered as I could, like, "Oh, I don't think it's been causing me issues." But actually it was causing me issues. I just didn't know. How could breast implants cause all these different symptoms? Like, it's just, but okay, I want to ask you something too about when people are ready to take that next step and get these out. How can they? So I remember I joined your Facebook group. That was step number one, and connecting with you and connecting with other women and kind of watching and observing and feeling more comfortable with going through another huge surgery. So they do a consultation with you, and then how did they get booked with Dr. Sood, or like, I travel and for patients, so many surgeons who even offer this. So can you kind of dive into, like, now that we understand what breast implant illness is, the issues that can come from it, and how it can express in the body, what's the next step? How can people get these things out of their body if they want to, and what's the process like for healing and all of that? So anything you can share on prior health, and I'll get the website.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you are correct. The majority of our patients do travel from out of state. We handle the logistics of that really quite well, as scary as that sounds. So by the time they find us, usually I will get in contact with them, kind of hear their story, hear what they have going on. If they're comfortable enough, we'll make a virtual consultation with Dr. Sood and I. At that point, photos will be sent in. Patients think they have to stand there with their breasts hanging out. No. We'll spare you from that for sure. You'll send in photos. Dr. Sood will take a look at the photos and kind of see what his aesthetic recommendations are. I will have already covered the logistics of it. Drains, you're going to have drains. Everybody hates the drains, but they're super important. Those drains, there's a reason for those drains. When everybody says, well, why drains? So you have you have your implant, you have the capsule. Once the capsule's taken out, your body now has an empty space. The body doesn't like empty space, and it wants to fill it up with fluid. Those drains are going to keep that fluid out of your body, not in your body. Now, you're going to have those drains for 10 to 14 days. Once you're under 20 cc's of fluid, in 24 hours, those drains will be removed. Now, when patients are traveling out of state, they're like, "Oh, well, how am I going to do that? I live out of state." So as long as you have somebody that's medically qualified, it could be a neighbor, it could be a friend, it could be a relative, it could be your primary, to remove those drains, we'll give you thumbs up to do so when we feel they're at the right sufficient drainage. Really restrictions, no lifting more than 10 pounds. People think they need to take 3 months off of work. Absolutely not. It's your 6-week appointment, which everything could be done virtual. We pretty much lift all your restrictions and you go on with your life. I mean, it's really, the downtime, as long as you follow the restrictions and let your body heal. The patients do really quite well. I mean, again, is there work that they have to do as far as with their health? Lymphatic massages, huge. We absolutely suggest lymphatic massages even before surgery. We have to open up those pathways. It's the only way the body is going to be able to detox and get rid of the junk. So that would probably be one of our top recommendations of even pre-surgery, which is going to help you. So basically, it's just giving you the information. We would schedule, look at dates, just figure out all the logistics of it. And like I said, we really do make it as simple for the women as we possibly can. We understand there's life, there's family, there's work, there's a lot. And, we have to remember too, these women are sick. So their anxiety, they're in fight or flight. Many of them have just been keeping their head above water, going more of a holistic route, removing things from their diet, where they're just barely hanging on. So we really do handle these patients quite well. I'm blessed to be with all of them. I actually, and I say this humbly, was blessed to be able to witness my uh, 500 surgeries yesterday. Um,
Ooh, wow.
yeah, and I say that humbly because and I say this really is not about me. I definitely was spared, I'm just the vessel, and it is a blessing. It's a curse and a blessing all at the same time. Um,
I can
but
relate to that with my activism as well. It feels that way. It's hard to balance both,
yep,
but you are truly doing God's work. And I don't know how my life would have, how this year would have panned out for me had we not met when we did in March. And I remember you handed that envelope to me with the information for Prior Health, and it sat in my room for like 2 months. I just wasn't ready to say goodbye or like to accept that I had made some huge mistake or to like learn what to do next. But as soon as this big event that I put on, it's called the Explant Illness Summit, was done at the end of May, I opened that envelope up and I started to do my research, and I knew exactly what I needed to do. It was like,
yeah,
once you go down the rabbit hole and you really learn how, many other people are hurting from this, it's really sad. But yeah, like you said, 500 patients that you've helped to get their foot in the door and to walk through this process, and I'm sure you'll help many, many more. So thank you for.
you're welcome, love. You are so good. You just said something I want to backtrack. And you said something really, really important that I want to say to any woman that's listening to this. You said, I made this mistake. So, what I'm going to say to that is it would have been a mistake if you were given informed consent.
Yeah.
It would have been an informed choice. So, I can't tell you how many women have so much guilt. They feel that they've done this financially to their family. They have taken away from their children because they're so sick. Um, what I usually say, and I'm going to say to you too, and I've said this to you before, it is so important that we forgive ourselves for what we didn't know. And once we do that, that is when the healing starts. And then you do the work of what you need to do if you are ready to have these removed. But we need to forgive ourselves for what we didn't know. If you had been given informed choice and still made this choice, you would have been like, oh, they told me this could happen, right? But you went into this. Would you have made another choice? Possibly. You may have chose, or had you started having these symptoms, you would have known what was causing these symptoms,
Yep.
not have suffered.
Exactly.
So one of the really important things is informed consent. Do I think in my lifetime, these implants are going to be banned? Mm-mm. It is a very powerful industry. So, however, I do have to say, back in the 90s, I would like to think that if we had social media, we could have we would have made a difference. So now with social media, the truth train cannot be stopped. There's too many of us and we're too loud. And this community is growing and growing and growing. So a lot of women are getting help and doing what they feel like they need to do. So just forgiving ourselves. Just
Yeah.
forgive.
Yeah, the forgiveness is a big thing too. And then also like walking out of surgery and like adjusting to your new body. Like one thing I do want to say about Dr. Sood's work is that the first time I could look in the mirror and see my new look, I actually started crying, but it was tears of joy. And I felt like sorry, I haven't like talked about this. In that moment I felt like this is me, and I was like happy to see myself for the first time, because when you have the big circles and the fake look, it's just not authentic. And like just looking at myself in the mirror, I felt like I'm finally back to who I am. And then also just I reached out to my friend who has the implants in, and we went to the same surgeon, and I said, hey, you have fibromyalgia, like it could be from the implants. Like that's something that immediately I felt better was my joint pain. And she said, well, what about the incisions? Like, don't you look like Frankenstein? She didn't say that exactly, but I actually will say Dr. Sood, however he did his work, my incisions look like a shadow. So my breasts actually look a little larger than they are because of how, because it is a big incision and that can be scary. But actually now I'm like, oh, it kind of adds this depth of field that I don't know.
Yeah.
But all that to say, I feel like I look better now than I did with implants. And my complexion, oh my gosh, I couldn't believe I used to have these big, deep purple bags under my eyes. I feel like the very next day, I couldn't believe how my skin looked. Like, I feel like a whole new, me. And the healing process has been interesting. I'm on week 4. I definitely overdid it last week. I was like cleaning off my patio and moving furniture. I know. It wasn't more than 10 pounds. They were just cushions, but still, the next day I was on the couch and lesson learned. So I've been taking it easy this week. Yeah. But all in all, I would say, I still have the numbness. I still have pain there in ways, but I think the first 10 days with the drains, you're talking about the drains, that was rough. And I was not doing anything. I couldn't even lift my Yeti water bottle those days. But, now I feel like it was the best decision that I've ever made. So I'm just really grateful. And now the healing process. So, you hit that 6-week mark and then, you're saying the lymphatic drainage is important. I know we talked about colonics, right?
I just posted that. I just did one. But I just did one last week. I am convinced, for me personally, after my implants were taken out, I had purchased a Champion juicer. I just went headstrong into juicing to help with getting rid of the inflammation. And I started doing colonics. I actually did colonics twice a week for 2 months. And I am gut-brain connection. I personally, from my own experience, am absolutely convinced that that is what helped me to recover so quickly. There's no doubt. It just, and we have resources in the group. We've got Danielle. We've got the summit coming up that I know you've been talking about. That's going to talk about.
Yes.
I'm so excited about that. I want to get back to one thing you had mentioned when you had mentioned Dr. Sood. I have got to say that man is an artist, and he is beyond a gift to this BII community. I have been saying he's this hidden gem, and aesthetically, we still care about what we look like. So the beautiful thing about him is not only does he care that we feel better, he cares about what we look like, and he just has a gift. And I watch it every single day. And I know that's one valid reason is the women care about what they look like. So when I go into the follow-ups and I see them like literally cry because they love their breasts, it's like, and they feel selfish at thinking, well, why should I care about what we look like? Because we got them for a reason, and we are still women and we are sexual beings. And that is a concern. But obviously, love our authentic self. But I wanted to make sure to touch on that because he is very humble. And he is kind, and he is definitely a gem to this community.
Yeah, and also when he came into the room for the pre-op and I'm like getting ready, I'm in the gown thing, I was like, I don't care what I look like. I just want these things out, because you reach a point where you're just like, I'm just want to feel better. I don't care. But he was like, my job also is to make sure that you're happy in the long run, and that, you don't have regrets, and that you were looking, as best as possible, provided the circumstance. But in the moment, as the patient, I'm just thinking, I just want to not feel the way I feel. I'm just ready to get these things out. And so he did a good job, I think, guiding me through, being like, no, put the drains in your armpits. You'll be happy, because then when you wear a swimsuit, you won't have the, So he was able to nudge me and be, I think good with guiding in that way as well. But
so if anybody listening, I know we're going to kind of backtrack here a little bit. So now what? If there's somebody listening and this is their aha moment.
Yes.
I know you'll probably send some links of how they can reach us. We do have a beautiful support group of beautiful women that love to tell their stories. They're either peeking around the certain. You don't have to talk if you don't need to. It's just to start at least going down that rabbit hole. It is BII, Centers of Excellence Support Group. I'm Laura Dawn. I'm the admin, so I will welcome you in. And you could ask questions. I'll also include my phone number in the support group. And I believe you'll probably put some information on how they can get a hold of us also. You could always email if you'd like. It is LBowden@drdrpryor.com. But really, probably the best way, and I'm going to actually give you my direct line, 815-977-5781. Anybody is welcome to call me anytime. You really are stuck with me on this journey. You know, I have been you, and I will definitely help you every step of the way. You are stuck with me from start to finish.
Yes, you are in very good hands with Laura, and I know I am too. And I'm grateful that I was able to cross paths with you and have you walk me through this process, because it's a lot, you know, to wrap your mind around everything at first, and then just even figuring out, how am I going to pay for this, the financing, all the intake forms, and like, you know, it can feel very overwhelming. So thank you for helping me personally. And I can say from my experience, you've really been just an angel for me, and thank you for your work helping me and helping other women through this process, because it's scary sometimes.
You are so welcome. It honestly is my pleasure. And thank you for doing this. Thank you for being a voice, because it's a very personal decision. You know, not everybody chooses to do a YouTube channel and sit and talk about it and say, I did this, you know, I did this to myself, you know, and unknowingly. And this was my journey. And I think it's important to let women know that they're not alone. They're not crazy. There is hope. There is hope.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being that hope and for guiding us through this. And for folks who want to learn more about breast implant illness, I put Laura's contact information in the comments section. You can also visit priorhealth.com. And there's an amazing event coming up, actually August 18th. What is that? In 3 days, free. It's the Breast Implant Illness Summit. I'll post the link. I don't have it handy right now, but it's 5 days of talks. Even if you're dealing with autoimmune disorders, there's all sorts of great detox presentations, infrared sauna, sleep, you know, how to get better sleep. And so it's actually kind of interesting to see all the different ways that this breast implant illness can affect our lives and how we can overcome this and heal and move forward. So obviously that's a lot of content, 5 days of amazing speakers. So even if you can only catch one or two, you know, it's free. Why not sign up? Why not register? And there's an option also to get the talks for life. So that is just coincidentally happening in a few days. So lots of good information getting put out there to the world.
And I'll share a lot of those links in our support group, in our BII Centers of Excellence support group. So they'll have access. They'll be able to see a little bit of teasers here and there and make sure that they sign up. And it's free. It's free. It is
free. Yes. And when you care so much about this topic, it's like, just get the information out there. But
that's it. Just keep spreading it like wildfire.
Amen. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Laura. I really appreciate your time. For folks who want to keep in touch, your information was shared there in the comments section. And just visit priorhealth.com. There's a whole tab there about breast implant illness, and you can do your free consultation and get your foot in the door and join that BII Center of Excellence social media page also, and on Instagram now. So, but
Instagram. I'm actually on Instagram, BII Pioneer.
Yes, perfect.
Yep, we'll share that too. All right, I want to thank you, and I will see your beautiful face on our 6-week appointment.
Yes, coming up here soon. Thanks, Laura. All right, we'll sign off.
Bye.
Okay, thank you all for joining. This was episode 24. Like I was saying with Laura, I just had my explant surgery 4 weeks ago. And I wasn't planning to talk about this publicly. But after I woke up the next day and felt the way I felt, I was like, I can't not share this information with the world. And there's a lot of different aspects to healing. And I'm still kind of going through that this week. Actually, I woke up yesterday with a fever, and you know, there's different ways to excrete all these toxins. So I've been trying to really focus on, doing my walks and the lymphatic drainage. And I'm still at the very beginning of this journey, though, to be completely honest with you. I am planning to speak about this whole process at the People's Reset in the United Kingdom. I'll be traveling at the end of September to Bath, UK with my husband, John. We're going to be presenting. And this is going to be streamed virtually, but if you're in Europe, feel free to join us there at the event. That's called the People's Reset. I'm also planning to make a mini documentary about my process healing. I've been taking photos. I know people are probably like, what does it look like? How are you doing with, what did you eat during this? And how are your energy levels? So I've been doing little videos here and there to kind of share what it's been like. But yeah, I'm 1 month out post-op. Yesterday was officially 4 weeks. I would say all in all, I'm feeling pretty well. And symptoms have definitely improved already. So if you're thinking about explanting, or if you want to learn more, obviously join us for the Breast Implant Illness Health Summit, which is coming up in 3 days, August 18th. You can watch 5 days of content, all free. There's an option also to purchase the replays. I'll share that link. And of course, schedule a consultation with Laura and Dr. Sood. It's priorhealth.com. Their office is based in Rockford, Illinois. It's really close to Chicago. So I actually just recruited my mom to travel with me. Thank God she was able to come with me. Thank you, Mom. She took care of me for like 2 weeks and she traveled with me. We got a rental car. We drove it was about an hour of a drive. Really no traffic though. It was, once you get into the airport, then you're away from downtown. So you just keep going west toward Rockford Northwest. And very charming town, city. We had a great time. We would walk around the different parks, and I got to see some nice parts of Illinois. It was a pretty quick in and out procedure. I stayed an extra day at the hotel. Then we traveled the next day back to the airport, came back to Texas, basically hung out with my mom on the couch for 10 days. We just watched Hallmark movies and made some good food, and we had a nice bonding experience together. So if you're thinking about doing this, I would definitely recommend finding a caretaker buddy who wants to kick it with you for 2 weeks while you are able to finally do things on your own again. But after the drains were taken out, I immediately started to feel better. I got them taken out 10 days post-op, and that was when I was like, okay, we got this. And, from there, being able to do more things on my own and put my hair up in a ponytail on my own and lift a cast iron skillet on my own. I mean, these things you don't even really think about, that, you would be limited after having a surgery like this. But thank you all for listening. Laura has been an amazing voice for so long. I want to share this video, but I don't know if it's going to work, but let's just try. This was her. This is a video on YouTube. Let's see if this works, y'all. Aw. Dang it, I don't think that it was working. Well, I'll post the YouTube video in the comments, but there's this amazing monologue that Laura gives on the Oprah Winfrey Show. And then also she has a segment from an FDA hearing. Just such a strong, powerful voice in this space and just very inspiring. So I hope that this podcast was helpful, this live stream. I appreciate y'all, and thank you for tuning in. Until next time.